Who are the 12 most improved offenses in the NFL for 2022, and what does that mean for fantasy football? It's time to break it down right here, right now, as we finish another week of Locked On Fantasy Football.
Are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer, and I'm not doing this. I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. We're going to close the week here as we kind of have limited shows here in June. We're going to take a little bit of a break here throughout this month as the NFL cools down ahead of training camp, but we'll still bring some great content to you. And I thought this was a good way to end this week as we transition from May to June. Look at the NFL's most improved offenses. This is based on a variety of factors, the personnel, the coaching, maybe just players getting better from the 2021 season. So we're looking at the 12 most improved offenses. This is not necessarily the best offenses. We know the Bills, Packers, Chiefs, some of these elite teams are still at that level from last year, but these are the ones that you can find more fantasy football production from and just better output overall running and or passing here in 2022. So we'll break those down for you. We'll count it down from 12 to number 1, the most improved offenses. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. We're available to you on all platforms, and I can also proudly tell you today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Fantasy Football listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement. Use Locked On at checkout for that discount. All right, let's dive right in. We'll start with number 12 on my list. It's the Minnesota Vikings. They come in here, and a lot of it is tied to their new offensive coaching staff. Kevin O'Connell comes in. He's going to have a good influence on the principal playmakers of his team, Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. We're already hearing big buzz about that. He came over from Sean McVay and the Rams, so that's always interesting. We know what effect it has had on the Bengals, that style of offense, and we're going to see it here with the Chargers as well as Brandon Staley on the other side of the ball. So Rams influence starting to spread throughout the league. The McVay coaching tree, even for a young coach, is starting to spread here and have some legitimate scary branches here. So Jefferson and Cook, pretty solid here. And this offensive line still a little bit of work in progress and trying to figure out the right answers for the front five. But I think that's how strong O'Connell's influence is here on Kirk Cousins, on his primary weapons. I think it'll rejuvenate Adam Thielen a little bit. You'll get more out of Irv Smith Jr. coming back at tight end. So, again, I just like the Vikings and the direction of the offense here. I think you'll hit another gear. Good enough offensive skill position players that I think they can take it to another level here. Line still a little bit needs to improve there to really feel great about it. But the Vikings are our number 12 team there. O'Connell, I think, is going to have a big impact on what they do because he'll be calling the plays there in Minnesota, and they need a little bit of recharge and re-energy there. They had some good years there with Kevin Stefanski and making the transition to the Kubiak style of offense, but this is going to, I think, make them more dynamic and get big plays out of Jefferson Cook, and I can't wait to see that. All right, let's transition to the Jaguars. They were a disaster last year with Urban Meyer and Darrell Bevell in the rookie season of Trevor Lawrence. It was a brutal rookie season. Didn't really have multiple touchdown games after the first one of the season, and then just taking lumps in the transition with Meyer fired at midseason. You had DJ Chark go down with an injury as well. So really wasn't pretty for the Jaguars and their supporting cast. It took a while to get it going. Dan Arnold gave it a glimpse of hope here coming over at tight end from the Panthers, but he went down and there was a lot available. Travis Etienne was not even available at all for his rookie season. He got hurt early. So you have Etienne returning. James Robinson should be back on the mend here. Were you able to keep Cam Robinson there at left tackle? And they also added Brandon Sheriff there from the Commanders. I'm not sure if he's too much of an upgrade at this point over Andrew Norwell, but he's an established guy being out there. If he can stay healthy, that's going to help up front. They did take a few hits there with the offensive line, but having Scherf as a splurge is going to help. So you like their running game potential here with Doug Peterson calling the players and having that committee, that change of pace back in Etienne, as well as that established regular feature back there in James Robinson. So running game certainly has a lot of upside here for Jacksonville. You look in the passing game, they spend a lot of money on weapons, so they bring in Evan Ingram at tight end to complement Dan Arnold. You have Christian Kirk getting a massive contract. I think Kirk a little bit overpaid here, but they still have Marvin Jones in the mix. They added Zay Jones as well. So it has to be better because it just is going to go away from the dysfunction that we had with Bevel, Meyer, and that area of offense. So really Peterson, we know what he did with the big armed Carson Wentz at the best years there for Philadelphia. So some upside for Trevor Lawrence that he'll be whispered and getting back on the right track here with Peterson. So Jaguars come in as number 11 on the improved offenses here in 2022. Number 10, this might surprise some people because you have the setback at quarterback with the Steelers, but it's not a setback because you have Mitchell Trubisky. He's got a strong arm. The rookie Kenny Pickett, first rounder out of Pitt, he's got a strong arm. Accurate, push the ball downfield. You had some assets on your offensive line to help here and there. You also bring in two more receivers in the draft, Calvin Austin and George Pickens. Gives a little bit of pop there beyond Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool as they move on from Juju Smith-Schuster, who wasn't doing much for them anyway, being hurt there. So you have some more upside with youth movement being pushed forward here, the transition from Kevin Colbert to Omar Khan as the general manager and the personnel guy here in Pittsburgh. But Matt Canada, I think, now has kind of the weaponry and kind of the arm strength he wants in place to get the ball downfield. Najee Harris should be better in year two, as well as their feature running back. Pat Freiermuth should build on his rookie season. So you start looking, the weapons are pretty good here for the Steelers. Again, interior line was the focus. They got James Daniels, I should say, to help their interior there. I think they'll get better play overall from their offensive line as it's been on transition. I also like Mason Cole, who they picked up to play center. So the Steelers are working on that to help Harris with the run blocking. They're going to be better because they just have a stronger arm. Ben Roethlisberger was not being able to push the ball downfield. Either way, they can do that and make those throws with Trubisky or Pickett here. So Steelers offense has a lot of upside. Switching away from kind of protecting the quarterback with a run-heavy approach, I think you'll be able to open it up a little bit more. That, in turn, is going to make Harris more dangerous there this season. All right, let's go to the next team. It's the Detroit Lions, and you look at the Detroit Lions and what they have, and offensive line has been pretty good. It stays intact here. Penei Sewell settling in at right tackle. They're opposite Taylor Decker. Very good interior with Frank Ragnow, Jonah Jackson, and Halapute Vaitai from the Eagles. So you have very good front here for the Lions. That was established. But now you add DJ Chark. If he can stay healthy, watch out for him. You use the number 12 overall pick on Jameson Williams. They traded up with the Vikings to get him. So a lot of excitement there over what Williams can do here in 2022. So I'm really looking forward to what the Lions will look like. TJ Hawkinson should come back from injury. DeAndre Swift should have more regular feature back role. They have a new offensive coordinator there in Ben Johnson. So a lot of things that are going to go right here for the Lions offense. Jared Goff tying it all together here, and really a lot of weapons all across the board. Amon-Ra St. Brown going into year two. He's already a strong established slot rookie there from his first season. So really looking forward to the Lions and what they can do here if Goff can put it all together in Johnson's offense here this season. All right, we do have 8 more teams to talk about. So we've gone through 12, 11, 10, and 9 here. We'll get through 8 through 5 and then close with the teams 4 through 1 in our most improved offenses countdown here to close the week. At BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to getting a classic and timely jewelry piece, gifting it as well at all prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating it with a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Build the engagement ring of her dreams or celebrate life's special moments with fine jewelry. No matter what you're looking for, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand for you 24/7. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Fantasy Football listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement rings as well. Use the promo code Locked On. That's the promo code Locked On. Plus, every order you get from BlueNile.com is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right, we will continue the show in a moment, looking at our number 8 offense, continuing our countdown of the most improved offenses here for this upcoming season. I do have to remind you, we have an important favor to ask you. We've put together a survey so we can learn more about listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about Locked On Podcast. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take very long, and everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. That's pretty cool. So all you have to do to take our audience survey and get registered to win one of those Ticketmaster gift cards, go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey. And thanks for your help in helping us make Locked On Fantasy Football and the entire Locked On Network better serving for you. That's what we're here for, you, the listener, and we want to take care of you with the news, information, insight, analysis that you want across sports here on Locked On. All right, speaking of that, let's dive right into more fantasy football analysis here, advanced scouting mode of the 2022 offseason. At number 8, the Indianapolis Colts sneak in there. So you get Matt Ryan, you go back to that traditional pocket passer you had with Phillip Rivers a couple of years ago with Frank Reich. You have now a better chance for big plays in the passing game with Alec Pierce, the draft pick out of Cincinnati. A lot of speed, a lot of size there, playing off Michael Pittman Jr. You got Paris Campbell. Looks like he's fully healthy to take advantage of his quickness. You lose Jack Doyle there to retirement, but you keep Mo Alley Cox around, and you add Jelani Woods, a dynamic athletic tight end there out of Virginia. So they're looking good with the versatility again, have a little bit more playmakers here. Zach Pascal is a bit pedestrian here, and they had to move on from him. T.Y. Hilton was just slowing down, not the same explosive player he once was in the Andrew Luck days. So the Colts really committed there. The offensive line, a little bit of question mark as we transition from Eric Fisher, but Fisher wasn't at the elite level anyway. So left tackle, they are pretty confident that they'll be on track there. So I think this offensive line is still very good, and Quentin Nelson has been an anchor here for quite a while. So you got him, and Jonathan Taylor's in the backfield, and there's going to be a dynamic offense once again. So I think with Matt Ryan, they've got more of the quarterback they want. They've got the downfield weapons, short to intermediate. They look a lot better across the board there with the offensive skill positions to complement Taylor and get some big plays in the pass game off that reliable running game they have with their young stud back, the number 1 overall pick in fantasy football still here in 2022. Next up is the Cleveland Browns. It's a bit of a up and down situation because Deshaun Watson, we know, upgrades everything when you get him at quarterback, but there's also concern how many games Deshaun Watson might be suspended for here. So that has to be factored in a little bit, but he should be around in more significant action here. And he's definitely an upgrade when you look at the arm, athleticism, running ability, getting the big plays in general. He's definitely a big upgrade over Baker Mayfield in that department. There's very few quarterbacks with that same physical talent on the field that Deshaun Watson offers. And their passing game takes a few hits here. Austin Hooper had to be let go here to clear some cap space. They moved on from Odell Beckham Jr. We know last year Jarvis Landry was the latest here for the Browns. They're working in these other young receivers, but they do get Amari Cooper there to help Anthony Schwartz and Donovan Peoples-Jones, who will start outside in a big role here. So Browns are looking revamped and rebooted here, and I think that's going to help them again. Just Watson Cooper is a good way to move on, turn the page from what didn't transpire to their liking with Mayfield and Beckham and Landry. So again, the Browns lost some, but they get a lot more, and their upside is pretty higher. And this is why they're a little bit lower than being in the top 5, simply because we're not sure how many games Watson will have to miss here this season. And we know Jacoby Brissett would represent a big downgrade from Baker Mayfield. So something to balance out there, but the Browns still very much improved with the big change at quarterback. Next up is the Las Vegas Raiders. A lot of the attention has been on Davante Adams, and that is justifiably so, but they've also made some other moves here. They got Keelan Cole, who is a valuable big slot, but also a versatile guy who can line up on the outside. They had Demarcus Robinson, the former Chief. He's been valuable in sub packages there. Hunter Renfrow is still around as a key target for Derek Carr. You also have Darren Waller. A tight end should be a bit healthier as well this season. And you had Josh McDaniels calling the plays and Zamir White as another option in the backfield with Josh Jacobs and Kenny Drake. The offensive line is the one downside that keeps the Raiders from being a little bit higher on this list. It's one of the worst offensive lines. They're ranked as the worst right now. So they're going to have to work around that problem. They'll have to do it schematically and with the personnel they have here. McDaniels can do that, but he's used to having really sturdy and consistent, reliable offensive lines with the Patriots. So that's what keeps them down a little bit here. But the skill positions with Adams in the mix, helping Renfrow and Waller being more dangerous as complementary targets, and you bring in these other receivers there, such as Cole and Robinson. You have Foster Moreau as your second tight end. Again, White could end up being the starting running back over Jacobs and Drake in this particular system. Now you're talking. So a lot of excitement there in Las Vegas about Adams and the trickle-down effect in the passing game, and White adding some energy in the running game there that could make it really deep. And we'll see what they do with Jacobs going forward. They haven't picked up his option there for next year. So you figure it all lines up for maybe a good combination of White and Drake as Jacobs maybe gets phased out a little bit here. So a lot of things to watch there. It might take a little while to come together as well for Josh McDaniels. It's a tough, complicated system. It's a big departure from what they had in the previous years with Derek Carr, so that's going to be part of it as well to limit them, but that still puts them in the top 6, at number 6 in the most improved offenses in 2022. All right, the Broncos are definitely improved because their quarterback situation was terrible between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. So they bring in Russell Wilson. He's definitely still an elite quarterback in this league. It's going to be how it kind of jives with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, and Albert Okwuegbunam at tight end here with Noah Fant gone. So those are things. The offensive line is good, solid. I would say it's short of being spectacular, but it's right up there with the league's most reliable fronts, anchored by their left tackle, Garrett Bowles. So yet not only Russell Wilson, major upgrade at quarterback, but you also get the offensive mind of Nathaniel Hackett coming over from Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur and the Packers. So he's going to help that with better schemes there. I think the Broncos will take some hits defensively. They won't be the same without Vic Fangio having oversight on this team, but they will be better offensively just with Wilson alone working in a more compatible offense. We'll see how much they tailor the offense to Wilson, or do they use a lot of the Rodgers concepts that made him successful with the Packers. I think it'll be a hybrid of those things here. And the Broncos have a lot of upside there. But, yeah, changing quarterbacks, having an upgrade there is going to be special. But that says 4 teams really did a great job there to improve elsewhere around the quarterback here. And they will fall in our top 4 in our final segment. It is time to wait for the NFL, and we're into the NFL futures. And they are still a long way away from paying off here, but still something we'll look at here and try to get the best values. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, which features 2 NBA powerhouses, the Warriors and Celtics. It was a wild, unpredictable game 1, but a lot of action to come here. Let's hope it goes 7 games there. We're into the conference finals ahead of the Stanley Cup there for NHL. The New York Rangers have been a great story on the ice. You got the Avalanche and Oilers also battling it out there. So a lot of good action there. Major League Baseball, we know as we get closer to the All-Star break, teams start to develop their identities a little bit easier to navigate through and know where you want to put your action on. Of course, the latest fighting news in combat sports from MMA and UFC to boxing. And then we also have another big sporting event next week with the Belmont Stakes completing the Triple Crown as the third jewel. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use a mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, it is time to close the show, revealing the Locked On Fantasy Football 4 most improved offenses for the 2022 NFL season. The New Orleans Saints come in at number 4, and then they might have been a little lower on this list, but some of the recent developments have really made me think the Saints can be pretty darn good this year. So all of a sudden, Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith, not going to be big factors in this offense. I mean, they're relying on them mainly in the passing game. You saw a little bit of Adam Troutman at tight end. It didn't really pay off. But now we look at the Saints, all of a sudden, first-round pick on Chris Olave. Then you add Michael Thomas, a happy camper back in the fold for the Saints, fully healthy after 2 disastrous years there for reality and fantasy football. So Michael Thomas is in there. You add Olave, and now Jarvis Landry's in the mix. So imagine that. 3 receivers that were non-factors for the Saints, all back in the fold. And they did lose Taron Armstead at left tackle here, but quick rebound for the Saints with Trevor Penning, very athletic youngster there. So Armstead had some injury issues, was wearing down a little bit. Now they have a boost of energy there at left tackle. They're playing off Ramczyk. So Saints are in great shape, and Jameis Winston, I think they're committing to some downfield passing concepts. They went from the Taysom Hill experiment as they made him more of a backup tight end here in New Orleans. So you got Andy Dalton being the straight-up backup for Jameis Winston. So Winston is locked in as the starting quarterback. They want to push it downfield. Pete Carmichael Jr. takes over without Sean Payton's influence here for the offense as he moves on, and we have Dennis Allen taking over as head coach. So really like a lot of environment around the Saints here. That's all going to help Alvin Kamara to have all these dangerous guys around in the passing game where it takes a little pressure off him. Let's hope still he's going to be a big part of the offense with his receiving and rushing. You also had Mark Ingram in the mix here. So he's back in New Orleans. So the Saints offense definitely looking up here, both running and passing here, even without Sean Payton. So that tells you something, the way they've drafted here with Mickey Loomis and how smooth the transition goes to Carmichael here in New Orleans. All right, the next team is the Philadelphia Eagles, and a couple of reasons for this. Number one is the big trade for A.J. Brown. He makes everyone else better. He becomes the clear number 1. Devonta Smith into a nice intermediate receiving role as the number 2. Dallas Goedert is also going to be helped with the field stretching of Brown and the attention he's going to get in coverage. So Smith and Goddard, pretty nice complementary targets there. Jalen Reagor also might see some juice here all of a sudden because of this development for the Eagles. Their backfield, I think they'll make better use of Miles Sanders this year with their schemes and all that. And you also have an offensive line that's back to full health there, still very intact, and the number 1, according to us here in Locked On Fantasy Football, and according to many in the NFL. When you look at Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson at the tackles, that's where it starts. And you have old reliables there, like Jason Kelsey in the middle. So love the Eagles and their front here. I think it's going to be great for their running game. Kenneth Gainwell should also be a bigger factor in the backfield here. I think you'll see more dynamic and explosive Eagles offense overall. They were a very good rushing team last year, centered around Jalen Hurts' ability to complement what they were getting from their backfield by committee. Now they have some more explosiveness in the passing game. Hurts should also develop a little bit more here for Nick Sirianni, having now a full season under his belt in the scheme. So loving the Eagles is a very much improved offense, and one we're going to definitely invest quite a bit in fantasy football here in 2022. All right, 2 teams from the AFC East close it out at number 2 and number 1. Who's going to be the top spot? Well, it's not the Jets. They come in at number 2. Very close here, but looking at the Jets, and you got to love it. Garrett Wilson is in the mix now as your number 1 receiver there. Corey Davis should come back healthy. You also are committing better to the slot with Elijah Moore falling into that spot. He was also pretty dynamic last year on the outside when needed. You also have Braxton Berrios still hanging around on this roster. So inside and out, you've got some big playmakers and intermediate to chain movers here for the Jets for their quarterback, Zach Wilson. You also should have better health in the offensive line and an improvement there. Mekhi Becton, left tackle. You have Laken Tomlinson added to the mix here next to him, Elijah Vera Tucker. Another first-round pick should be solidified here. And George Fant rounds it out at right tackle. So really good front here for the Jets. You add also tight end help with C.J. Uzomah and Tyler Conklin. So we've talked a lot about the Jets. They can do a lot with 11 personnel and 12 personnel, 3 wide receivers and 2 tight ends this year. And we haven't gotten to the fact that they have Breece Hall in the backfield along with Michael Carter. Carter, if he's healthier, should be a good change of pace there for Breece Hall. Figures to be in line for the lead touches here in this Jets backfield behind an improved offensive line. Another year under Mike LaFleur, Zach Wilson being a little healthier. So a lot of things pointing upward for the Jets. Very close. They could have easily been number one on this list, but we give it to the Miami Dolphins, their rivals in the AFC East, as number one. Here's why. I mean, you add Tyreek Hill. That's a big deal. You also improve your offensive line big time. We talked about Armstead leaving the Saints. He ends up signing with Miami for a nice deal to be their new left tackle. You also get Connor Williams from the Cowboys. So the front is better. You add Tyreek Hill. Now you also add Chase Edmonds into the mix and Sonny Michel as your new backfield combination here to upgrade over what they had with Myles Gaskin. And, of course, the big part of this whole thing, tying it all together, the wunderkind from the 49ers coming over from Kyle Shanahan's offense. It is Mike McDaniel. So, yeah, we talked about it, coordinator, personnel, offensive line, skilled players, however you look at it, what team is the most improved here overall with most offensive upside. It is the Dolphins. So, Tua Tagovailoa, he could take a big step here with the better protection and the better weapons. So you're banking on that a little bit, but a lot of the things are set up for him to produce nicely. They also brought back Mike Gesicki at tight end with a franchise tag, so he's still in the mix. Jalen Waddle should be better here in year two after a very dynamic rookie season. So everything lines up, and I really like the combination of Edmonds and Michel could really pay off here for Miami as a 1-2 punch as they try to get a little bit more from Myles Gaskin. Gaskin couldn't quite hold up here. Edmonds has shown that he needs a little bit of help as well with the power running game. He worked really well with James Conner last year, so you bring Michel. So really like things here with the Dolphins, and they're going to be a source of more fantasy football production, just like all these teams here as we count down from number 12 to number 1, our most improved fantasy football offenses in 2022. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today to close the week on a Friday. Now make your second listen to the Locked On NFL podcast, where national NFL experts and insiders keep fans dialed in with the biggest stories and latest news from around the league, because an offseason doesn't equal a break in the action. Follow Locked On NFL every day on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, just like you'll find us here at Locked On Fantasy Football. For Locked On Fantasy Football for this week, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next week.